So I was really close with my grandfather. He was a carpenter and God called him into ministry, so he became a pastor and literally built the churches he worked at from the ground up. And I was his buddy. I would follow him around and learn how to do everything just like he did. But alongside doing that, he also taught me a lot about God. We were literally picking apples in his orchard, and at the end of the day, he came in and talked to me about my heart and my faith in God. And so I knelt there at his parsonage and prayed to accept Christ at 4.5. And so my journey with God has been long. Interestingly, it was the same day that we landed on the moon. So about 50 some years now I've walked with God, and it has been the most constant thing in my life. I'm Becky White. I lead out over all of our counseling, and I've been here at Fellowship for 8 full years now. So I was born in the Imperial Valley, which is the salad bowl of America, very much the most southern part of California. And I moved up to Riverside when I was 5. And so I started playing girls softball and eventually learned how to play basketball. And so I did 4 sports in high school. But the main sport I was best at was basketball. Cheryl Miller in women's basketball, she was the only player that anyone talked about, and they started talking about her at about 13 years old. We were in the same league. We got to know each other through our moms, and I used to hold her down to like 35, 40 points. I was pretty heavily recruited by a lot of Division I schools, but I chose to go to Biola because I could play both sports, both volleyball and basketball. In both volleyball and basketball, I was an All-American each year, so I was an 8-time All-American while I was there, which hadn't happened at that school before. I was actually drafted on my wedding day to play in what was the professional women's basketball league at the time, but there wasn't a lot for women to do to make a career out of sports in that time. So for me, sports was over, by the time I was 21. My husband was my only boyfriend I ever had. We started dating when I was a senior in high school, and he was in college, and we dated all through the 4 years of college, and we got married the week after I graduated. We had kids relatively soon, and so we had our son Trevor, who's now 33, and then we had triplets that are now 28. My husband was a teacher, and he was also a coach at the college level, and so he was gone a lot for most of the year. So for me, it was just figuring out how to make it work. And when my boys were 3, I could see that Logan and Boone were doing things connectivity-wise, communication-wise that Cameron wasn't doing. And it's typical that multiples have some challenge communicating, but we took him into a special ed preschool to get evaluated at 3, and so they told us that he was profoundly disabled. As I sat there when he was 3 years old, getting all the information, I had no idea that I would be doing that primarily alone. So my boys were about 7 when their dad told them he was going to leave. I'm a therapist now, so I recognize the many mistakes within our marriage, but it was not what I had anticipated or wanted. To be pretty young, about 37, and all of a sudden single, was something that I just didn't even have a line item in my brain for. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. And I had received incredible counseling through my divorce, just life-altering, processing many things. My therapist said, Becky, the divorce is the least of your worries. You are a mess. And so she really navigated me through my life and reset me, taught me how to reinvent myself. I decided once my younger kids went to college that I would go back to school. And so I went back to get my degree in marriage and family therapy. At the time, I was doing a lot of speaking, and I had spoken up at Forest Home, which is a Christian conference center. At the time, a great friend of mine, Liz, who's become part of my family, and LaRosa Tate were on my staff when I was speaking there. But Albert would watch the girls, and he would call and check in on Saturday nights of the conference. We talked together about him starting Fellowship. And so about 1.5 years in, he said, yeah, Becky, we need you to come do counseling here. So I got out of the car, when we used to park in the front, And it was the most vibrant and exciting place I'd ever sat in and experienced church. And at the end, Albert gave an invitation, and I was sitting up front with LaRosa, and I just jumped in and got to pray for people right away. And Albert said, I guess it's going to be hard for you not to come on staff now. I'm so grateful to sit in the seat I'm in, even though divorce was nothing I would ever have planned. Disability was nothing I ever thought I would have. Didn't imagine trying to work several jobs to manage a home, but it puts me next to many people as they live their lives. And that hard work is what's required in life. You have a lot of practices, but not a lot of games once you finish your career in sports. Every day feels more like practice. Every day feels more like you do a lot of work that nobody sees, but that matters incredibly to everyone. And now, in this point in my life, when my sons are fathers and husbands, I see a lot of what he was doing. It is really an amazing time. They never oversold being a grandparent. It is amazing to watch your kids be parents, to watch their homes grow. God will never have to say he's sorry for the way he created Cameron. He didn't do something wrong. And I believe God is close to him. I believe Cameron connects to God in a lot of ways, but he slows down and looks at how sun cuts through leaves. I miss a lot, but Cameron doesn't miss a lot in creation. He really appreciates things. I love what I'm doing at Fellowship, and I love that we've done, in the time I've been here, 15,000 plus hours of free counseling for this community, and I love that. In Hebrews, where it says God created the world out of what did not exist, and in my life there's been many moments where what I had didn't amount to very much, but yet God created something out of it. God is really faithful.